यशोदानन्दन व्रजनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रजनरञ्जन यमुनतीरा वनचारि यमुनतीरा वनचारि हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा गिरिधर राधा गिरिधरि जय जगन्नाथ जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय जय गौरानित 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 जय जय प्रभु 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 जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव Krishna, would anybody would like to read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Should
Hare
I?
Krishna Mataji, yes, please.
Thank you. Swamiji's departure. The next morning, Prabhupada had to leave his affectionate followers. Several cars filled with devotees accompanied him to the San Francisco airport. Nandarani. Some were sincere and some were crying because it was appropriate to cry when the spiritual master leaves. Actually, none of us really knew much about what the spiritual master was. Janaki mischievously stole the ticket and passport from Prabhupada's hand. Now you can't go, she said. That's all right, he smiled. I already have my boarding ticket. I am Indian. They will let me go into my own country. Prabhupada turned to his adoring followers, gathered close around him at the boarding gate. Actually, I have only one desire, and whoever does this will please me very much. Now I have a temple in New York, in Montreal, and a temple in San Francisco. But I do not have any temple in Los Angeles. He told them to remain in Krishna consciousness and to please preach. They watched as he turned and walked through the gate, his cane in one hand, boarding pass in the other. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So now we will go to Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiret Nashtaprayashu Abhatreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 1, chapter entitled The Activities of Maharaj Priyavrata, text 11. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Nibodha Tatedam Ritam Bravimi Masu Yutam Devam Arhasi Aprameyam Vayam Bhavaste Tata Esha Maharishir Vahama Sarve Vivasha Yasya Dishtam Shri Bhagavan Vacha Nibodha tatedam ritam bravimi Masuyutam devam arhasi aprameyam Vayam bhavaste tata esha maharshir Vahama sarve vivasha yasya dishtam Shri Bhagavan vacha Nibodha tatedam vritam bravimi Masuyutam devam arhasi aprameyam Vayam bhavaste tata esha maharshir Vahama sarve vivasha yasya dishtam. Anyone would like to recite the verse?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Nibodo Tatedam Ritam Bravimi Mashuyitam Devam Arhashi Aprameyam Vayam Bhavaste Tato Esha Maharshi Bahama Sarve Vivasha Jasya Dishtam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you Prabhu. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Nibodhatatedam ritam brabhimi Mashuitam devam arhasya aprameyam Vayam bhavaste tatayesha maharshir Vahama sarve vivasayasya dishtam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranamata.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Mataji.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha Nibodhatatedam ritam brabhimi Masuyitam devam arhasya parmeyam Veyam bhavasate tat eshe maharshi Vaha ma sarve vivashya yashyadishtam. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Maybe we should go on synonyms. Synonyms. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, the Supreme Person, Lord Brahma, said, Nibodha, kindly hear with attention. Tata, my dear son, idam, this. Ritam, true. Bravemi, I am speaking. Ma, not. Asu yutam, to be jealous of. Devam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Arhasi, you ought. Aprameyam, who is beyond our experimental knowledge. Vayam, we. Bhava, Lord Shiva, te, you. Tataha, Father. Esha, this. Maharishi, Narada. Vahama, carry out. Sarve, all. Vivasha, unable to deviate. Yasya, of whom. Dishtam, the order. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Lord Brahma, the Supreme Person within this universe, said, My dear Priyavrata, kindly hear attentively what I shall say to you. Do not be jealous of the Supreme Lord, who is beyond our experimental measurements. All of us, including Lord Shiva, your father, and the great sage Maharishi Narad, must carry out the order of the Supreme. We cannot deviate from his order. Anyone would like to read the purport?
May I, Mataji? Hare
Yes.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
It's a long paper, so we can.
Yeah, you can share.
Okay, paragraph by paragraph. Papered by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Of the 12 great authorities in devotional service, 4, Lord Brahma himself, his son Narad, Swambhuva Manu, and Lord Shiva were present before Priyavrata. They were accompanied by many other authoritative sages. Brahma first wanted to impress upon Priyavrata that although these great personalities are all authorities, they cannot possibly disobey the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is described in this verse as Deva, which means always glorious. The power, glory, and potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead can never be diminished. In the Ishopanishad, the Lord is described as apapa vidha, which indicates that he is never affected by anything materially considered sinful. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam describes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as being so powerful that nothing we might consider abominable can affect him. An example sometimes given to explain the position of the Supreme Lord is that of the sun, which evaporates urine from the earth but is never affected by contamination. The Supreme Lord can never be accused of doing anything wrong. Thank you. Somebody can continue.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Anybody else?
When Lord Brahma went to induce Priyabrata to accept the responsibility for ruling the universe, he did not go whimsically. He was following the dictations of the Supreme Lord. Indeed, Brahma and other genuine authorities never do anything without his permission. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. The Lord dictated Vedic knowledge to Brahma through his heart. The more a living entity is purified by devotional service, the more he comes in direct contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed with Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Tesham shatata yuktanam bhajatam purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Bhagavad Gita 10.10. Lord Brahma therefore had not come to Priyabrata by his own whims. Rather, it is understood that he had been ordered to persuade Priyabrata by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose activities cannot be understood by material senses and who is therefore described herein as Aprameya. Thus, Lord Brahma first advised Priyabrata to hear his words with attention and without envy.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare
This is
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. This is the last paragraph. Anyone would like to read this last paragraph?
I could read it, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you. Why one is induced to perform certain acts despite his desire to do something else is indicated herein. One cannot disobey the orders of the Supreme Lord, even if one is as powerful as Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Manu, or the great sage Narada. All these authorities are certainly very powerful, but they do not have the power to disobey the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since Lord Brahma had come to Priyavrata in accordance with the orders of the Supreme Lord, he first wanted to dispel any suspicions that he might be acting as Priyavrata's enemy. Lord Brahma was following the orders of the Supreme Lord, and therefore it would be worthwhile for Priyavrata to accept Lord Brahma's order as the Lord desired. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishna Bhutale Shimtabir Krishna Swaminiti Namine Nama Om Saniksha Prabhat Priyate Shuddhi Shuddhi Nishtavadasavakya Navadine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shimtabhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachane Nirvishesha Shunyavati Pashtata Dishtarini. I'm seeking the blessings of all the dear devotees. Please bless me so that I'm able to do this service and present Srila Prabhupada's teachings as it is. Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhuva evacha patitanama pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai. So we see the current scenario is there is a need for a good ruler in the universe. And after the Prachetas, there is no suitable king. And Swambhuva Manu, he went to Gandhamadana hill to request his son Priyavrata to rule over the universe. But Priyavrata refused his request as he was engaged in Brahmachari ashram. So the matter was very serious, and therefore Lord Brahma, he had to descend from his abode to instruct Priyavrata, and he was accompanied by Lord Shiva, the great sages like Marichi, Atreya, Vashishta, and Lord Brahma also brought with him the personified Vedas. And so these Vedas are his constant associates. And Narad Muni and Swambhuva Manu are also in that assembly. So this is the current situation. And they're all gathered to convince Priyavrata to take up Grihastha ashram and rule the universe. So in this verse, mostly my presentation would be mostly practical application. And what can we learn from the qualities of Lord Brahma as a perfect authority? And some of the great leadership qualities which Lord Brahma exhibited. This does not apply to the leaders only. It applies to every one of us, because at some point in our life, we play the role of a leader. Either we are guiding someone, or we are managing a home or a family, or even a big organization. So these qualities of Lord Brahma, it actually applies to all of us. So first quality we see of Lord Brahma is empathy. And a leader should be empathic. And most of the time we get confused between empathy and sympathy, and we think that these both terms are same. So there is a difference here. Sympathy is concerned with my feelings towards another. So it focuses on our emotions connected with the victim's situation. So for example, if a person is suffering from a toothache, you say, I feel really bad for you. So our feeling bad for that person doesn't do anything for that person. So it is mostly connected with our feelings and our emotions. On the other hand, empathy is concerned with my attempting to understand another's feelings and needs. And you are putting yourself in their shoes and feeling what they are going through. So again, taking the example of toothache, you say that you must be in a lot of pain and it must be very stressful for you. So this is an expression of empathy. And empathy means connecting by being personally present. That means by personally present means with one's heart and with one's mind. And we are being fully aware of the other person's feelings and needs. So what it does, it actually makes the connection personal, complete, and reciprocal. So this thing was this concept of empathy was taken from the book called Realizing Our Empathic Nature, Connected to Krishna, by my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Bir Krishna Maharaj. So if anyone would like to know in how to develop this quality of empathy, so I've got this book here. So this is the book. It Yeah, so if you want to know more about empathy and how to develop this quality of empathy, then we are most welcome to get a copy and read that. And regarding empathy, there is a Mataji in Europe. Her name is Madhuri Radhika, and she conducts courses based on empathic communication. So where she teaches us that we have certain emotions, and most of the times we are expressing certain things. For example, we are angry. So we express certain frustration through anger. But the root cause is not the anger. The root cause is something else. So this course actually helps us to understand what are your needs. And not only your needs, but also what are the needs of the other person. So this is very important if you want to develop this quality of empathy. So such courses actually help us to develop these qualities and have better understanding of other people's feelings and needs. So here, Lord Brahma is instructing Priyavrata out of compassion. So we see in the previous verse when Lord Brahma descended, he was smiling at Priyavrata, and he was doing that out of compassion. He had compassion on his face. So we cannot have empathy without having compassion. And a great leader, when he's instructing, he's guiding, or even when he's chastising his subordinates, that is done out of compassion. And it is not done out of pride or envy. And when we see that someone refuses or is hesitant to follow certain instructions, the first thing a leader should do is try to understand the needs and concerns of his subordinates rather than being judgmental, oh, he is like that, oh, she is like that. And sometimes, due to pressure, leaders and managers, they want to get things done without understanding the needs and concerns of their subordinates. In such situations, the subordinates, they feel exploited and they feel fearful because there is just dictations. So there is no relationship and there is no connection. Thus, the subordinates, they would be reluctant to follow the instructions. And if they do, that is done out of fear and not with a happy mind. On the other hand, an empathic leader, he has a very good relationship with his subordinates. Why? Because he understands their needs and concerns and he tries to assist them in fulfilling their duty. So he has a very good connection. Because he acts as a well-wisher and as a result, he is able to attract and influence them. So, thus, the subordinates, they follow him not out of fear, but they do whatever he says, they do out of inspiration. And there's a very good example of Srila Prabhupada where he exhibits this quality of empathy. His personal secretary, Shrutakirti Prabhu, he wrote a book called What's the Difficulty? In that book, he actually writes this pastime that at one time in Los Angeles, it was very cold night, and Shrutakirti, he didn't have any blankets or any sweaters. So what he did in his servant quarters, he had two Bena gas stoves. So he switched on those two Bena gas stoves just to keep himself warm. Later on, Prabhupada, when he came to know this, he actually asked Shrutakirti that, don't you have a blanket? And Shrutakirti Prabhu said that, no, Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada said, why? And he says that, because I'm traveling with you, I try to keep my luggage as minimum as possible. So Srila Prabhupada said, okay, you go to my cupboard and you take a chadar. So whatever you like, whichever chadar you like, you take it. So Shrutakirti happily he goes and he grabs one of the chadar of Srila Prabhupada. Then one time, Shrutikirti Prabhu's god brother, he comes in the room of Shrutikirti Prabhu and he sees that chadar. So it's a very nice chadar of Srila Prabhupada. And he comes to know that that is Maha Chadar of Srila Prabhupada. And he expresses his desire to have that chadar of Srila Prabhupada. So being soft-hearted, Shrutikirti, he gives away Srila Prabhupada's Maha to his god brother. Then Srila Prabhupada, one time Shrutikirti was resting in his quarters again, and Srila Prabhupada, he noticed that Shrutikirti doesn't have his chadar. And then he asked Shrutikirti again that what happened to the blanket? And then Shrutikirti admitted that he had given away that blanket to one of his godbrother because he expressed his desire to have Srila Prabhupada's Maha. Then Srila Prabhupada said, all right, go to my cupboard again and get another one. But this time, don't give it away. So we see how Srila Prabhupada was empathic and he was concerned about the needs of his personal servant, that he was concerned about his personal comfort, about his need to be warm. And of course, we know that this is just one aspect of Srila Prabhupada's empathy. Srila Prabhupada had immense empathic, spiritual empathy, and because of that, we are all here today. And because Srila Prabhupada understood that we had a need to connect to Krishna, and because by that connection, we will be relieved of our material sufferings. So a great leader can be very inspiring. And yeah, so Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So here, coming back to the verse, we try and understand Lord Brahma understood the needs and concerns of Priyavrata. So what are his needs? He was fearful that if he accepted the responsibility of ruling the universe, he would be diverted from devotional service. So that was his fear. And he would have to get married, have children who would carry forward his dynasty. And because he would be engaged in managing worldly affairs, he feared that he would get entangled and that he might forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Lord Brahma, understanding his needs and concerns, he actually assures him that even if Priyavrata accepts the household life, he would not be out of touch of devotional service, because he had the blessings of the Vaishnava. And this is actually mentioned in the previous purport, that by the blessings of the Vaishnava, everything is possible. Therefore, Priyavrata is protected from the fall down through the blessings of the great Mahajans. So the great Mahajans, they have assembled there. They are there to bless him. So with their blessings, it is Priyavrata can be successful in executing his duties as a grihastha. Now, the second quality of Lord Brahma is that a great leader, he follows the orders of his superiors and is transparent in his dealings. So Lord Brahma, he went to induce Priyavrata to accept the responsibility for ruling the universe. He did not go whimsically. He went because he had the dictations of the Supreme Lord. He went because it was the order of the Lord. So he did not go out of his own accord. And it is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam in Canto 3, 13.13 purport that Lord Brahma is deputed as the supreme head of the universal affairs. And he in his turn deputes Manu and others as charges the affairs of the material manifestation. But the whole show is for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. And Brahma knows how to satisfy the Lord. And similarly, persons engaged in the line of Brahma's plane of activities also know how to satisfy the Lord. So a good leader, he becomes a good role model when he sincerely follows the orders of his superiors. Because that, when he is conducting himself in front of his superiors, that actually inspires his subordinates to learn from him how to conduct themselves in front of their superiors. So they become inspired. And Lord Brahma here, he wanted to impress upon Priyavrata that although these great personalities, including himself, they are the great authorities, they cannot possibly disobey the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because they are all dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are not independent. And in Bhagavad Gita, purport 7.21, it says that both demigod and living entity, they are dependent on the Supreme Will. They are not independent. And generally, in this verse, we see that Lord Brahma is referred to as Bhagwan. So generally, Bhagwan refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu or Lord Krishna. But sometimes great personalities such as demigods like Lord Brahma, Narada, Lord Shiva, they are also addressed as Bhagwan because they carry out the purpose of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here Brahma is expressing his position, that this is our position. Although we are great demigods, although we are powerful, but ultimately we have to follow the orders of the Supreme. We are not independent, we are dependent. So all these authorities are certainly very powerful as mentioned in the purport, but they do not have the power to disobey the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in translation, Lord Brahma is saying, all of us, including Lord Shiva, your father, and the great sage Maharishi Narad, they must carry out the order of the Supreme. We cannot deviate from his order. So here, Lord Brahma is trying to say that if we, the powerful demigods, the Mahajans, if we cannot deviate from his order, so you should also not deviate from his order. And so what we can learn from here is when a leader is transparent in his dealings with his subordinates, that actually wins the trust of his subordinates. In this way, the leader progresses in his devotional service, and whom he is guiding, they also make progress in their devotional service. And the third quality of Lord Brahma is that Lord Brahma is glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why he's doing that? Because he's doing that to strengthen the faith and broaden the perspective of Priyavrata. Now, we may have this question that why we should follow the Lord's order. It is explained in Bhagavad Gita 5.29 that Suridam Sarva Bhutanam, the Supreme Lord is the benefactor and the well-wisher of the living entities. That is the reason why we follow his order. And further, in Krishna book, chapter 87, it is mentioned that everyone should know that there is no well-wisher like Krishna. Everyone should understand that Lord Krishna is the supreme well-wisher of everyone and should take shelter of him. In this way, one can become completely confident and satisfied, knowing that he has someone who is able to give him all protection. Krishna himself, his incarnations, and his plenary expansions are all supreme well-wishers of the conditioned souls. But Krishna is a well-wisher even of the demons. For he gave salvation to all the demons who came to kill him in Vrindavan. Therefore, Krishna's welfare activities are absolute. For whether he annihilates a demon or gives protection to a devotee, the result of his activities is one and same. It is said that the demon Putana was elevated to the same position as that of Krishna's mother. So when Krishna kills a demon, the demon is supremely benefited as much as a pure devotee is benefited by always being protected by the Lord. So we see why we follow the Lord's order, because the Lord is our supreme well-wisher. If we don't follow the Lord's order, then by default we follow Maya's order. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is mentioned that Krishna hoya Surya Saman and Maya hoy Andhakar. So if we follow Krishna's order, then we are protected. But if we follow Maya's order, then we suffer. So this is our position. So it's better to follow the order of the Supreme Lord. Further on, it is said in the purport that the power, the glory, and the potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead can never be diminished. In the Ishopanishad, the Lord is described as Apapavidya, which indicates that he's never affected by anything material considered sinful. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam describes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as being so powerful that nothing we might consider abominable can affect him. An example sometimes given is to explain the position of the Supreme Lord is that of the sun, which evaporates urine from earth but is never affected by contamination. The Supreme Lord can never be accused of doing anything wrong. So Lord Brahma is glorifying this quality of the Lord, this quality of Apapavidya. Why he's glorifying that? Because he's trying to say to Priyavrata that have faith in the Lord's order. And if you follow his order, you will not be affected by any material contamination. And then Lord Brahma is saying to Priyavrata that do not be jealous of the Supreme Lord. So this he makes, this is in the translation. So I found this a little heavy on Priyavrata because Priyavrata, he was following the path of devotional service and he is the initiated disciple of Narad Muni. So in simple terms, what devotional service means, it means to please Lord Krishna. And that is the science of devotional service. So pleasing also means to follow the instructions of Lord Krishna. But here we see a little bit of contradiction, that here Priyavrata is reluctant to follow the order of changing his ashram. And if one does not follow the orders of the Supreme Lord, then one is considered to be envious of the Lord. So here Lord Brahma is being a little heavy on Priyavrata, that do not be jealous of the Supreme Lord, because he was a bit reluctant. And because the Lord is described as Aprameyam, who is beyond our experimental knowledge. And in Bhagavad Gita 8.9, it is stated, Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anor Aniyam Sham Anusmaredya Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varanam Tamasa Parastat. So what it means is that one should meditate upon the Supreme Person as one who knows everything, and he who is the oldest, who is the controller, and who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental, and he is beyond this material nature. And in Sri Ishopanishad Mantra 5, in the purport, it is explained that with our limited fund of knowledge, we cannot conceive of the Supreme Lord in terms of our limited powers of understanding. So we see our mind is limited. So limited can never understand the unlimited. But here, in this situation, Priyavrata has his plan set out. So what he's thinking, that I'm going to be a Naishtika Brahmachari for life, and I'm going to achieve perfection of devotional service according to my plans. So similarly, we have our plans, but the Lord has his plans. Our plan is imperfect, but the Lord's plan is perfect. And many times we think that the Lord's mercy will come according to our plan, according to our desire, or according to our will. If it comes according to our plan, then only it is mercy. If it doesn't come according to our plan, then it is not the mercy of the Lord. So that is our imperfection. That's how we have the tendency to think. So if things do not go according to our plan, then we get upset, we get bewildered, as we see here. Priyavrata is a little confused, he's little bewildered, because we are attached to our plans. Even if we are so attached, even we are so attached to our opinions that if someone challenges our opinion or our plan, we start considering that person as our enemy, because that person has a different plan or he has a different opinion. So if you have a same opinion as mine, then only you are my friend, but otherwise you are my enemy. So this thinking, actually it creates a mental block, and we cannot appreciate others' viewpoint or others' opinion. This tendency is actually very common in Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, it is very difficult to have a healthy debate. Why? Because usually when we have debates, we oppose a certain arguments. But what happens is that people, they are so attached to their viewpoint, or that they start personal attacks. So that is called ad hominem attacks. And as a result, there is fighting. Because the intention there is that because we are so attached to our plan that it is difficult for us to understand other person's viewpoint or other person's philosophy. And when we don't when we have that mentality, we consider other person as our enemy. Because when we have a debate, the aim is to understand other person's viewpoint and other person's philosophy. And Srila Prabhupada, he actually instructs us that we should be cooperative. Why he says that we should cooperate with one another? Because he understands that when we are executing devotional service, we may have different plans, we may have different opinion, but that does not mean that that person is our enemy. So we have to respect each other's plans, as long as the intention is good. If the intention of the person is, okay, I want to serve the Lord this way, I want to serve the Lord that way. So there are varieties of ways we can serve the Lord. So we have to respect each other's plans, and we have to respect each other's opinion, because everyone has a different way of thinking. So here Lord Brahma, he is cautioning Priyavrata that just because we have a different plan from you, do not think that we are here to obstruct your devotional path, or we might be acting as your enemy. Because the Lord is apremeyam, immeasurable. His mercy is unlimited. His plans are unlimited, and the Lord's mercy can come in any form. So there's unlimited forms of Lord's mercy. And in most situations, Lord's mercy comes in adverse situations, because that intensifies our hearing and chanting. And we see this in the example of Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj, he wanted to sit on the lap of his father, but his stepmother rebuked him and she spoke some harsh words. So Dhruva Maharaj was very devastated and he was heartbroken. He went to his own mother. So his mother, she advised him to take shelter of the Supreme Lord. So later on, Dhruva Maharaj, by the advice of Narad Muni, he achieved pure devotional service, and he had darshan, he had personal darshan of the Supreme Lord. So the Lord's mercy came to Dhruva Maharaj in that way. And there's another example of Gajendra. Gajendra, he was attacked by a crocodile, and he was distressed. And in that distressed condition, he, with intensified devotion, he called out the Lord. So the Lord came, he protected him, and he also liberated him. And there's another example of my Guru Maharaj. He mentioned that he had kidney stones. And whenever someone is going through that, it's very painful. So what Gurudev was saying that he chanted his rounds very attentively. And those were the most attentive chanting he did in his life, because out of pain, he was really calling out to Krishna. So we have to understand that the Lord's mercy can come in any form. And most of the time, it is difficult to understand the plan of the Lord. And if we fail to understand, then what happens? Our faith, it becomes weak, it dwindles. That is when we need the association of saintly persons. So here, Lord Brahma, what he's doing as a perfect leader, he is glorifying the Supreme Lord to remove the doubts and the confusions of Priyavrata, and he's trying to strengthen or deepen his faith towards the Supreme Lord, that he should have firm faith in executing the Lord's order, and he should take that as a special mercy of the Lord. There's a story which is not from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a story of Lord Jesus Christ. He had a disciple, and this disciple, he was becoming very weak. Although he was having normal food, he was eating normally, but still he was feeling very weak. So what Jesus Christ did, he asked him to fast. So, and some of his disciples were thinking that, what kind of instruction is this? He's asking this person to fast when he's already very weak. But anyway, this disciple, he had faith in Jesus Christ, and he fasted for certain days. So after certain days, Lord Jesus Christ asked one of his other disciples to prepare a sweet rice. So, and he asked him to bring in front of this person. And he asked this person just to smell the sweet rice, but not to eat it. But this person was in extreme, like he was extremely hungry, and he was also thinking why he's saying like that, because I'm extremely hungry and I've been fasting for so many days and I really want to have this sweet rice. But Jesus Christ instructed him that just smell the sweet rice. So what happened after some time? He felt something suddenly coming out from his mouth, and it was a tapeworm. So what was happening is that this tapeworm was actually taking all the nourishment from the food. And because Jesus Christ instructed his disciple to fast, so what happened? This tapeworm in the stomach, uh, uh, it was hungry, so he didn't have food for that many days. And because of the smell of that sweet rice, that tapeworm, out of hunger, it came out of his mouth. So similarly, uh, sometimes it's difficult to understand the plan of the Lord, but we should understand that the Lord is our superior well-wisher, and whatever he does, even though we may not understand it, it is for our own benefit. And then there is a verse that tad vignanartham sa gurum eva bhi gachet samit pani shrotriyam. Shrotriyam, one who has very nicely heard, one who has acquired Vedic knowledge by hearing process. Shrotriyam Brahma Nishtam, and the result is that he is firmly fixed up in Brahman. This is from Srila Prabhupada's lecture in Surat from Srimad Bhagavatam 6.1.39 to 40. So one needs to engage in hearing the glorification of the Lord in association of the devotees to strengthen one's faith and once we are guiding. So it may be that Priyavrat, by rejecting the Lord's order, he would not have achieved the success of devotional life in Brahmachari ashram. But if he followed the Lord's order to please him by entering a Grasta ashram, the Lord would provide him full protection and success in his devotional life. And this is very nicely explained in Bhagavad Gita 9.22, where the Lord promises, Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesam nityabhiyuktanam yoga sheham vahami aham. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So the Lord is assuring Priyavrata through Lord Brahma his full protection. So the fourth point, we see that Lord Brahma has a direct connection with the Supreme Lord. Tene Brahma Ride Adi Kavaye. The Lord dictated Vedic knowledge to Lord Brahma through his heart. So we can say that Lord Brahma is a pure devotee of Lord. He's such an exalted personality. So how can we have that direct connection with the Lord? And it is explained in the purport that the more a living entity is purified by devotional service, the more he comes in direct contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Tesam satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantate. To those who constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Bhagavad Gita 10.10. So, in our practical life, sometimes we come to a point in our life where there is no one to guide us and we have to make certain decisions. And at that moment, we sincerely pray to Krishna and the Lord gives us inspiration in our heart. So the more we execute devotional service sincerely, the more we will have connection with the Supreme Lord. And I was listening to His Grace Rukmini Krishna Prabhu, and this is what he was saying about on this connection. Srila Prabhupada says that leaders means leaders in hearing and chanting. A leader should be expert in hearing and chanting. Only then she will have good connection with the Supreme Lord. Because leaders engage in guiding so many people, a good connection with the Supreme Lord through his hearing and chanting can assist him in making good, clear decisions which impacts the lives of many individuals. And then he said that Srila Prabhupada says that all managers and all leaders, if they follow strict sadhana, that is waking up early, chanting 16 rounds and strictly following the rules and regulations, then the future of Krishna consciousness movement is very, very bright. Excuse me. All the leaders and managers should have visible sadhana. When others see that, that inspires other devotees to practice their sadhana seriously. And in this connection, I was hearing His Grace Radhesham Prabhu, who is a disciple of His Holiness Radhanath Swami, and he was glorifying His Holiness Radhanath Swami on his Vyasa Puja, and he was saying that Radhanath Swami, he would attend Mangal Aarti, and after Mangal Aarti, he would sit among his disciples and he would chant his 16 rounds. So, when others see that inspires other devotees to practice their sadhana seriously. So the leaders, they actually set great examples for others to follow. And if one wants to make good, clear decisions, then one has to be in a mode of goodness. Otherwise, the mind, it becomes clouded and it is difficult to think clearly. If one is engaged in some form of maintenance, example, managing a small group or even a big organization, then to be able to effectively do that, one needs to be in mode of goodness. So the deity that maintains the universe is Lord Vishnu, who represents the mode of goodness and pure goodness. So the potency of maintenance actually comes from him. And if we have a good sadhana, follow the principles of devotional service, then the Lord will speak through our heart. And the fifth quality of Lord Brahma is that as a leader, Lord Brahma is able to balance the needs of the universe and also the needs of Priyavrata. So a good leader is both project or mission oriented and person oriented. Sometimes a leader is under a lot of pressure to balance these two, the individual needs and the institutional needs. So Lord Brahma, he was able to balance both, and he was able to get a competent ruler, which was the need of the hour, to get a competent ruler, Priyavrata, to convince him, and also he addressed his needs. And if a person is too much mission oriented, then that affects the sadhana of the individuals. And on the other hand, if he is too much person oriented, then the mission is slowed down. And a good leader is able to strike the balance between the two. If we have a good sadhana, then we can preach better. And if we engage in preaching, then that will please the Lord. And as a result, that empowers us to chant nicely. And if we are not somewhat engaged in the preaching mission or somewhat supporting the preaching mission in some way or the other, our chanting becomes weak. So we have to do both. And the last point that I found in this verse, that Lord Krishna, he loves to glorify his devotees. The Lord, out of his love for his devotees, he loves to glorify them. Here, the Lord, he wants to glorify Priyavrata. Why? Because he's a dear devotee of the Lord. If Priyavrata remained in a brahmachari ashram and he performed austerities on the Gandhamandana mountain, not many common people would know about him. And if he becomes the ruler of the universe, so many people would look up to him as a great ruler. He will be famous all over the universe and he would perform many wonderful activities, as we see in later verses. He creates brilliant sun, he creates 7 seas. So these are some of the wonderful qualities which the Lord empowered him to do. So this is actually the plan of the Lord, to add glory to his devotees' name. Only his devotees can set great examples for common people to follow. And there is example in relation to this is Arjuna. So Arjuna, when he saw Lord Krishna's universal form, so one of the mouth of Lord Krishna, it represented death. And he saw that the opposing warriors, the powerful opposing warriors like Karna, Bhishma, Duryodhan, they were all rushing into the mouth of Lord Krishna. So Lord Krishna, he told Arjuna that I have already killed all these powerful opponents of yours, Bhishma, Karna, and Duryodhan. You just have to become an instrument and you just you just become an instrument and you just take the credit of killing them. But I have already killed them. So this is the love of the Lord. And we see later on that Arjuna, when the Lord disappeared from this earth, Arjuna, when he went to Dwaraka to bring his Lord Krishna's wives, on his way back, he came across some cowhead bandits, and they actually kidnapped Lord Krishna's wives, and he was unable to do anything with his Gandiva bow. So his Gandiva bow was useless. So then he realized that it was because the Lord Krishna had empowered him to perform many, wonderful activities. That is why he was so famous, and that is why he was so glorious. So with these words, I'd like to end here. It is almost time. I'm sorry I took so much time. So if anyone would like to add anything, please feel free to do that. Or if anyone would like to share any realizations or have any insights, please feel free. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Ratnalekha Dasi, thank you for such a nice discussion on this verse. You looked at it from so many different angles. Okay, Lord Brahma was accompanied by so many other powerful devotees to come and convince Prabhupada Maharaj. And he's an exemplary leader. But if the leader is not that powerful, how, like in the material conditions, we don't, even the material sense, the bosses are not that exemplary. So it's very hard to follow the orders. So how should we take it? I mean, like in a organization, the boss is the supreme. Although you might have leaders, quality of a leader, but sometimes we might not take his instruction very seriously. So how should we look at this? So authorities has to be empowered, but in material life, we don't see people having this empowerment. So how should we, in a material sense, in the practical sense, how should we look at this situation?
Yeah, Prabhu, we understand that we have some faults, and but nevertheless, we see their intention. Their intention is to push the mission forward, and they may not be perfect, but in that case, if their subordinates, they do not follow this leader, then how the mission will go forward? So the mission will be stopped. So somehow we have to serve the mission of Srila Prabhupada. And we see the intention of the leaders. They may not be that competent, or they may not be perfect, but still we somehow try and serve the mission of Srila Prabhupada. One time I asked this question to my Guru Maharaj, not in Auckland, but we were out of Auckland and somewhere. And he actually instructed us that no matter who manages the temple, we should serve the mission of Srila Prabhupada. So that is that instruction. Actually, we still remember that instruction. So no matter what, we still have to push the mission forward, and we just have to do our part. But this is my understanding, Prabhu. If anyone has any other insights on this.
Thank you. That's fine. Yeah, good explanation.
Anyone else would like to add anything? Or
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna
Mataji.
Mataji.
What a very nice, insightful class. Very beautiful. So many different points you took from. I mean, you brought out about leaders. Many things that really have to think so deeply to come across such points. So thank you very much. It was very, very insightful and lots to learn from today's class. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you so much. And of course, whatever I have spoken, it is I have heard from my superiors. So I just shared this. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you so much for such a nice class. So many wonderful points, and so nicely presenting it, so nicely and clearly and slowly you spoke and presented everything. It was so nice to hear and understand. Thank you so much. And
Thank
just one question or comment I had. Very nicely you're mentioning that empathy, empathy, importance of empathy. And empathy, as I understand, it has to be from both the directions. So the leader is empathetic to the subordinates. The subordinates also are empathetic to the leader. Because as you said, the leader may not always be 100% perfect, but the subordinates are empathetic to that. So it's both directions. So one hurdle for this empathy is because many times, like we are not in a perfect state. No, sometimes we are irritated, sometimes we are hungry, sometimes we are tired. No? And at that time, how to maintain this quality of empathy? No? At that time, we become impatient. No? Due to whatever our material weaknesses. So just wanted to have your.
Yeah, Prabhu, like I said, we are not perfect. So if we are transparent in our dealings, this is my understanding, that if we are transparent in our dealings with our subordinates, the subordinates can see that we are also not perfect, and we are also learning at the same time while we are trying to guide them. So yeah, I mean, how else can we see that? Because and we just try our best, and then oh yeah, I remember Srila Prabhupada, he said that to err, to make a mistake, it's human, but to rectify with a cool head, that is required. So if we make any mistakes, and it's common, we make mistakes, we are not perfect, so the thing is that we rectify it with a cool head. So we sometimes we go and we apologize to our subordinates that I'm sorry, I was acting like this, and I'd like to apologize that. So that actually the subordinates also see that you are being a leader, being a guide, being a mentor, you are trying to be humble, and you are trying to accept your mistake. So that actually that is a positive impact on the subordinates. So this is my understanding, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mati. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
One second. One of the things, one point mentioned in the translation is that Lord Brahma said, please hear attentively. I mean, so sometimes somebody gives instruction, but we are not attentive. We have one mind of somebody else, and we have already measuring what he's saying, not registering. So very important. Somebody give instruction, we have to hear. He said, please hear attentively. And I think the mention of also that he said, do not be jealous of the Supreme Lord. I mean, that was a bit heavy, as you mentioned. I mean, just in the opening sentence, Lord Brahma said, do not be jealous of the Supreme Lord. So, as you mentioned, it says that somebody who is not obeying the Supreme Lord, he is also in that situation of being jealous. I was trying to say how Lord Brahma can instruct he's already a disciple of knowledge in such a heavy tone. Do not be jealous of the Supreme Lord.
Yeah.
Thank you for making that point. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Well, we don't have any more comments, or then we can end here, Prabhu.
Yeah, there are no any more comments. We are in here. Thank you.
Panchakalpatu bhasya kripa sindhu
Sindhubhya eva cha patitanam
Pavunebhyo Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namo Namo.
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Jai.
Jai.
Grace Ratnalekha Mataji ki
Jai.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki
Jai.
jai.
God Hari Bol.
What he said? Either said I could sleep in his bed or go to Dadu's